Retired Master Chief Petty Officer Cole Anderson had been working as a high-end personal security contractor in Miami, Florida for 13 months since leaving the Navy SEALs. At 39 years old, Cole hadn't retired due to physical injury or catastrophic mission failure. He left because after 16 years of operations across multiple theaters, he'd witnessed wealthy defense contractors systematically exploit military personnel for profit while evading accountability through political connections and unlimited legal resources. The breaking point came during a deployment when a billionaire contractor's deliberate negligence caused equipment failures that killed 3 operators on Cole's team, men he'd served with for years, brothers who died because a corporation chose profit margins over proper equipment, testing, and quality control. The subsequent investigation was buried through aggressive lobbying, political pressure applied to senior military leadership, and legal maneuvering that shifted blame from the contractor to operator error despite overwhelming evidence of defective equipment and ignored safety warnings. Cole requested retirement rather than continue serving in a system where money consistently bought immunity from consequences, where corporations profited from military operations while avoiding accountability for deaths they caused, and where political connections trumped justice for fallen operators. Private security contractors who transitioned from Navy SEALs often worked dynamic security roles for State Department or intelligence agencies, with positions paying $700+ per day and requiring extensive special operations backgrounds. But Cole deliberately chose high-end personal security work instead, protecting executives, securing private estates, conducting threat assessments for wealthy clients. The work was lucrative, with 6-figure annual contracts that provided financial security. But it carried bitter irony. Cole was now protecting exactly the kind of people whose corruption and political connections had driven him from military service. Navy SEALs transitioning to civilian careers commonly struggled with translating military skills into business terms and finding meaningful work that utilized their capabilities without requiring the ethical compromises that drove them from service. His companion was Titan, a 7-year-old German shepherd who'd been Cole's canine partner for 4 deployments spanning Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and Yemen. Titan had specialized in threat detection and controlled aggression operations, extensively trained to identify hostile intent before it manifested, neutralize dangerous targets with surgical precision, and provide tactical support during high-risk scenarios. When Cole retired, voluntarily citing ethical concerns, Titan retired with him under the Military Working Dog Adoption Program. German Shepherds were renowned for their intelligence, loyalty, strong work ethic, protective nature, and ability to maintain operational capabilities despite aging and retirement from active service. The German Shepherd maintained constant operational awareness that never diminished, scanning environments for threats with tactical precision, positioning himself protectively near Cole in public spaces, exhibiting hypervigilance that Cole's wealthy clients found reassuring but didn't truly understand. They saw an impressive security dog that enhanced their personal safety profile. They didn't see a warrior who'd processed more combat operations and threat assessments than most human operators, who'd saved Cole's life twice during deployments, and whose operational experience exceeded that of most civilian security personnel. On a humid Saturday night at 23:15 hours, When Miami heat remained oppressive despite late hour, Cole was off duty, walking Titan through Miami's Bayfront Park after completing a security shift at a downtown charity gala for wealthy donors. It was a routine they'd maintained since moving to Miami. Late-night walks that gave Titan necessary exercise and Cole temporary escape from the cognitive dissonance of protecting people whose wealth consistently shielded them from the accountability he desperately wished existed. As they passed near the marina entrance, where expensive yachts lined the docks, Cole heard sounds that triggered immediate tactical assessment. A woman shouting official police commands, a dog barking in acute distress, a male voice making threats laced with entitlement and rage, and underneath it all, the unmistakable sounds of physical violence in progress. Cole's combat instincts activated immediately, despite 13 months of civilian work. He moved toward the commotion with Titan at controlled heel position, both operator and canine transitioning seamlessly from routine walk to operational mode. 40 yards past the marina gate, near a poorly lit pathway, where palm trees blocked ambient lighting, Cole saw a scene that crystallized every reason he'd left the SEALs. A uniformed Miami-Dade police officer, female, approximately late 20s, was on the ground being systematically kicked and beaten by a male approximately 6'1", 190 pounds, wearing designer clothing and a Rolex watch that probably cost more than the officer's annual salary. Beside the officer was her canine partner, a Belgian Malinois in tactical vest, whimpering and limping from what appeared to be serious injuries sustained attempting to protect its handler before being kicked repeatedly by the attacker with deliberate viciousness. The male attacker, later identified as Damian Whitmore, age 28, was delivering systematic strikes to the downed officer's torso and head while shouting threats that defined his entire worldview. "You don't know who my father is. I'm Damian Whitmore. My dad owns half this city. You think you can arrest me? Touch me again and my father's lawyers will end your career. You're nobody. I'm somebody. Do you understand what that means? I can do whatever I want." The officer was attempting to defend herself, but she was clearly injured, disoriented from apparent head trauma sustained early in the assault, and unable to effectively reach her service weapon or radio while being continuously assaulted. Cole's threat assessment was instantaneous and comprehensive. This was felony assault on a law enforcement officer in progress. The canine had been deliberately injured to prevent defensive intervention, and the attacker's statements explicitly referenced extreme wealth and political influence. Whitmore connected immediately to Thomas Whitmore, billionaire real estate developer with documented history of using unlimited financial resources to avoid legal consequences for his family through political donations, aggressive litigation, and witness intimidation. This wasn't random violence or a confrontation that escalated beyond control. This was someone whose wealth had convinced him he was fundamentally above accountability, attacking a cop who'd probably tried to enforce laws he genuinely believed didn't apply to him. Cole had approximately 3 seconds for a decision that would define whether his retirement meant anything or just relocated his compromise with corruption to a different city. Intervene in an active felony assault, knowing the attacker's billionaire father would deploy unlimited legal resources and political pressure to destroy anyone who touched his son. Or walk away, call 911 from a safe distance, and let the system handle it while the officer potentially got beaten to death, and the wealthy assailant faced zero real consequences because money always wins in systems designed to protect wealth. For someone who left military service specifically because billionaire contractors bought immunity from accountability for operator deaths they caused through negligence, this was the test of whether civilian life changed him fundamentally or just gave him different excuses for accepting injustice when confronting it became personally expensive. Cole gave Titan the operational command from their deployment days. Engage threat. It was the specific command they'd used when encountering hostile forces actively attacking friendly personnel. Titan understood immediately. Neutralize the aggressor. Protect the vulnerable. Execute with precision. The German Shepherd moved with surgical precision. No wild attack driven by aggression, but controlled professional engagement. Targeting the specific threat while carefully avoiding the injured officer and her wounded K9. Titan engaged Damien with a controlled bite to the attacker's right thigh, the leg delivering kicks to the downed officer, using pressure calibrated to control and immobilize without causing unnecessary damage. Damien screamed in shock and pain, attempting to strike the dog. That's when Cole moved in with practiced efficiency, not to fight, but to control using techniques perfected through years of close-quarters combat training. Applied a standing arm lock that hyperextended Damien's elbow just enough to cause immediate compliance without permanent damage. Transitioned smoothly to a grounded control position that completely immobilized the younger man despite his struggles and size, maintained dominant position with professional detachment until backup arrived. The entire engagement, from Titan's initial bite to Damien's complete immobilization, lasted exactly 14 seconds. Cole maintained control while calling to the officer. "Miami-Dade Police, I'm retired SEAL. Your K9 is injured but mobile. Are you functional?" The officer, later identified as Officer Melissa Chen, 29, 8-year veteran with the K9 unit, was bleeding from facial lacerations, clearly concussed but conscious and oriented enough to respond. "Who are you?" she managed through swelling lips and obvious pain. Cole's response was calm and professional. "Someone who doesn't walk past cops getting beaten, regardless of who's doing it. Can you radio for backup?" Officer Chen managed to activate her radio with trembling hands and call for emergency assistance, her voice shaky but clear. 1013, officer needs help. Bayfront Park Marina entrance. Suspect in custody. Civilian intervened. Within 3 minutes, Miami-Dade Police responded in overwhelming force. Multiple patrol units, K9 supervisor, a lieutenant who recognized the name Whitmore with visible concern and resignation. When they arrived, they found Cole maintaining perfect control of a cursing, threatening Damien Whitmore who was shouting about lawsuits and his father's power. Officer Chen, injured but stable and coherent. Her Belgian Malinois K9 partner being comforted and assessed by Cole, who was using basic veterinary first aid learned during deployments to check for serious injuries. And Titan sitting at perfect controlled heel beside Cole. Professional, disciplined, awaiting orders despite having just executed a tactical engagement. The lieutenant, a 23-year veteran named Rodriguez who'd seen everything Miami could offer over 2 decades, assessed the scene carefully and made a statement that defined the political reality. "You just attacked Damien Whitmore. His father is Thomas Whitmore. billionaire real estate developer, major political donor to both parties, owns enough property and influence in this city to make anyone who crosses his family deeply regret it. Kid's been arrested 6 times. DUI, assault, drug possession, domestic violence, and never spent a single night in jail because daddy's lawyers and political connections bury every case before trial. You intervened to help Officer Chen. That's heroic. That's also potentially career-ending and legally suicidal, because the Whitmores will throw unlimited resources at destroying you. Damien. Whitmore regained enough composure to begin his defense strategy immediately, demonstrating practiced familiarity with avoiding consequences. You're all witnesses. This man and his vicious dog attacked me unprovoked. I was walking peacefully through the park when that cop harassed me for no reason. She came at me aggressively. I defended myself, and this man assaulted me with a military attack dog. My father's lawyers will destroy all of you. I want that dog seized and euthanized immediately. I want this man arrested for assault and battery. I'm the victim here. His narrative was already forming with remarkable speed. The classic wealthy defendant strategy, where the victim becomes the aggressor, and unlimited legal resources ensure the story sticks in court through aggressive litigation and witness intimidation. Cole was processed at the scene with standard procedures. Comprehensive statement to responding officers documenting exactly what he witnessed and his actions. Photographs carefully documenting the assault evidence, including injuries to Officer Chen and her K9. Witness contact information exchanged with Officer Chen and multiple responding units. Lieutenant Rodriguez pulled Cole aside for a direct, honest conversation once they had privacy. What you did was absolutely right. Any cop in this department would have done the same. But Damien will file assault charges against you and dangerous dog charges against Titan under Florida statutes. Thomas Whitmore will hire the best defense attorneys in Florida. Former prosecutors, former judges, people with connections to every level of government. They'll argue you attacked his son unprovoked, that you're unstable from military service, that your dog is dangerous. Unless we have ironclad evidence that can't be disputed or intimidated away, this becomes your word against a billionaire's son, and that math doesn't work out well for regular people in Miami. Officer Chen, receiving medical treatment from Miami Fire Rescue paramedics for her injuries, provided the detail that became crucial. My body camera was recording the entire time. The assault, his threats about his father owning the city, him kicking my K9 repeatedly. Everything. It's all documented with audio. The body camera footage became the evidence that prevented the Whitmores from controlling the narrative through their usual methods, at least initially. Cole was released from the scene with explicit warnings from Lieutenant Rodriguez. The Whitmores don't forget and they don't forgive. Thomas Whitmore has political connections to the mayor's office, city commission, state legislature, both U.S. senators from Florida, and multiple federal judges. Damien's going to be arraigned on felony charges, assault on a law enforcement officer, aggravated battery, animal cruelty for attacking the K9. But his father will bring every resource to bear. Vary your routines. Watch your back constantly. And honestly, thank you. Chen would be in ICU or dead without your intervention. Over the following week, the situation escalated exactly as predicted with disturbing precision. Damien Whitmore was arraigned and released on $100,000 bail, posted immediately by his father through family attorneys. Within 48 hours, the Whitmore family's legal team, led by Marcus Brennan, a former federal prosecutor now making millions in private practice, representing wealthy defendants, filed aggressive countercharges against Cole for assault, battery, and excessive force. They filed dangerous dog complaints against Titan with Miami-Dade Animal Services, demanding immediate seizure and euthanasia under Florida's dangerous dog statutes, claiming the German Shepherd attacked Damien unprovoked and represented an ongoing public safety threat requiring removal. Local media, several outlets that received significant advertising revenue from Whitmore properties and development projects, ran coordinated stories questioning whether Cole overreacted with excessive force and whether a military attack dog should be allowed in public spaces. The coverage was clearly orchestrated to create public pressure and establish narrative that Damien was the victim. Officer Chen and the Miami-Dade K-9 unit provided critical institutional support. Chen's body camera footage was strategically released through official police department channels, showing unambiguously that Cole intervened to stop a brutal assault in progress, and that Titan engaged only on direct command to protect a law enforcement officer being beaten. The K-9 unit supervisor submitted official documentation that Titan's actions were textbook-controlled aggression consistent with military and police K-9 training standards, exactly the behavior law enforcement dogs were trained to execute, performed with discipline and precision that exceeded most civilian dogs. The turning point came when Cole received a visit at his apartment from two attorneys who identified themselves professionally as representatives of the Whitmore family interests. They weren't thugs or obvious intimidators. They were $1,500 per hour lawyers whose message was delivered with professional polish and legal precision. Mr. Whitmore Sr. wants to resolve this situation efficiently and amicably, the lead attorney explained in measured tones. He's prepared to offer you $250,000 in exchange for dropping all cooperation with prosecution against Damien, signing a comprehensive NDA preventing you from discussing the incident publicly or with media, surrendering your dog voluntarily for humane euthanasia given the dangerous dog complaints and public safety concerns, and relocating your security consulting business outside Florida within 90 days. This is an exceptionally generous offer that avoids prolonged litigation. Mr. Whitmore is fully prepared to fund indefinitely if necessary. We're talking years of legal expenses you cannot afford. It was professional intimidation wrapped in legal settlement language. $250,000 to disappear, sacrifice his canine partner, and let a billionaire's son face zero consequences for felony assault on a police officer. For most civilians, it represented a pragmatic choice. Take the substantial money, avoid years of expensive litigation against unlimited resources, move on with life. For someone who left the SEALs specifically because wealthy contractors bought immunity from accountability for operator deaths they caused through negligence, this was the moment that defined whether Cole learned anything or just exchanged one corrupt system for another location. Cole's response shocked the Whitmore attorneys with its directness and finality. Tell Mr. Whitmore that his son committed felony assault on a law enforcement officer, which I personally witnessed and stopped. That's not something I'm willing to ignore for money regardless of the amount. I'm not signing an NDA that protects a criminal. I'm not surrendering my dog who protected a cop. I'm not relocating my business because someone's father has wealth and political connections, and I'm fully cooperating with prosecution. If Mr. Whitmore wants to spend millions in legal fees trying to retaliate, that's his choice. But I'm not backing down because someone's father has money. The attorneys left with barely concealed frustration, making clear through body language and carefully chosen words that Cole just rejected the reasonable option and should expect the full weight of Whitmore resources deployed against him without mercy or restraint. Cole knew he'd just escalated a situation most people would de-escalate through settlement and compromise, but he also knew that accepting would validate every reason he left military service, the reality that wealth buys immunity while ordinary people face consequences. The Whitmore family escalated aggressively across multiple fronts. They leveraged political connections to pressure Miami-Dade police leadership to drop charges against Damien. They filed civil lawsuits against Cole, seeking $5 million in damages for assault and emotional distress. They funded a coordinated social media campaign portraying Damien as a victim of vigilante violence by unstable veteran. They systematically pressured Cole's security consulting clients to terminate contracts through business connections. They used relationships with state licensing boards to threaten Cole's private security credentials. Officer Chen and her fellow K-9 officers organized immediate resistance. They provided extensive media interviews describing the assault in detail and praising Cole's intervention. Veteran organizations mobilized to support Cole with legal defense funds. Animal welfare groups organized protests against the dangerous dog complaints against Titan. Civil rights attorneys offered pro bono representation, recognizing the case as wealth, attempting to buy immunity from felony prosecution. The crisis peaked when Thomas Whitmore himself appeared at a carefully orchestrated press conference to personally defend his son. "My son made some mistakes that night. We acknowledge that, but he was violently attacked by an individual with a dangerous military dog trained to kill. This vigilante behavior cannot be tolerated in a civilized society. We're pursuing all legal remedies to ensure justice for my son and to remove a dangerous animal from our community." The implication was clear and deliberate. Billionaire's son is the victim, Cole is the criminal vigilante, and unlimited resources will enforce that narrative regardless of evidence. The situation transformed when investigative journalists from the Miami Herald and other outlets began digging into Damien Whitmore's history. 6 previous arrests that mysteriously disappeared through legal maneuvering and political pressure. Multiple assault victims who received substantial settlements in exchange for signing NDAs and silence. A documented pattern of behavior where wealth consistently prevented accountability. The body camera footage went viral nationally, millions of views across social media showing clearly that Damien brutally assaulted a police officer, injured her K-9, and made explicit threats about his father's wealth and influence before Cole intervened. Public opinion shifted dramatically. What the Whitmores framed as vigilante attack on innocent man was revealed nationally as retired SEAL stops wealthy criminal from beating cop to death while shouting about being above the law. State prosecutors, facing overwhelming public pressure and crystal clear video evidence, refused to drop charges despite intense political pressure from Whitmore-connected officials. The mayor's office began distancing itself from the Whitmores after sustained protests outside City Hall, demanding accountability for Damien. Damien Whitmore's trial proceeded despite his family's extensive legal maneuvering and attempts to delay proceedings indefinitely. The body camera footage proved devastating. Crystal clear, high-definition evidence of sustained felony assault, explicit threats referencing his father's wealth and political influence, deliberate vicious attacks on a police canine to prevent intervention, and zero evidence supporting his claim of self-defense against police harassment. Damien's high-powered attorneys argued their client was intoxicated and therefore not fully responsible for his actions, an argument that spectacularly backfired when prosecutors demonstrated this was his sixth alcohol-related violent incident with zero consequences because his father systematically paid for outcomes rather than allowing accountability. The prosecution presented testimony from previous victims who'd received Whitmore family settlements in exchange for silence, demonstrating a pattern of violent behavior enabled by wealth. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and convicted Damien Whitmore on multiple felony charges: assault on a law enforcement officer, aggravated battery, animal cruelty for attacking the canine, and making terroristic threats. The judge, noting Damien's extensive history and his family's documented pattern of avoiding consequences through wealth, sentenced him to 12 years in state prison with no possibility of early parole, one of the stiffest sentences for assault on a law enforcement officer in recent Florida history. The judge's sentencing statement became widely quoted. "Wealth does not place anyone above the law in this jurisdiction. This defendant has avoided accountability his entire adult life because his father's unlimited resources prevented consequences. That pattern ends today. The people of Florida deserve to know that justice applies equally regardless of bank account balances." This sentence reflects the severity of attacking a law enforcement officer and the aggravating factor of a lifetime of similar conduct enabled by family wealth. Cole faced no criminal charges whatsoever. The body camera footage combined with multiple witness statements made abundantly clear. His intervention was legally justified defense of another under Florida law. The Whitmore family's aggressive civil lawsuits against Cole, seeking millions in damages, were dismissed by judges who noted pointedly in their rulings that Florida law explicitly protects individuals who intervene to prevent felony assaults, and that the lawsuits represented an abuse of the legal system, attempting to punish someone for protecting a police officer. Thomas Whitmore spent an estimated $8 million in legal fees across criminal defense, civil litigation, and political lobbying, achieving nothing except proving that unlimited resources cannot overcome clear video evidence and genuine public outrage. The financial and reputational costs to the Whitmore family extended far beyond the legal fees. Multiple business partners terminated relationships. City officials who'd received Whitmore donations faced recall campaigns. Thomas Whitmore's real estate developments faced organized boycotts. The family's reputation for invulnerability was publicly destroyed. Officer Chen fully recovered from her injuries after 2 months of medical treatment and physical therapy, returning to full duty with the K9 unit. Her Belgian Malinois partner made a complete recovery after veterinary treatment for bruised ribs, soft tissue injuries, and psychological trauma from the attack. She and Cole developed a genuine friendship built on shared values. Both had faced unlimited wealth, trying to purchase immunity from accountability. Both refused to accept that money should override justice. Both learned that sometimes principle requires rejecting comfortable settlements and accepting personal cost. 9 months after the intervention, Cole received an unexpected offer. A coalition of veteran organizations, law enforcement advocacy groups, and security professional associations asked him to lead a comprehensive training program teaching intervention techniques, de-escalation strategies, and tactical response to security professionals and civilians. The position allowed Cole to formalize and teach what he demonstrated in Bayfront Park, that sometimes protection requires more than just calling 911 and waiting, that warriors have responsibilities that don't end with military retirement, and that intervention skills can save lives when applied correctly. The program attracted significant attention from law enforcement agencies seeking to improve officer safety training, and from private security companies wanting to elevate professional standards. 1 year after that Saturday night, Cole and Titan participated in a major law enforcement canine demonstration in Miami, showing how military-trained dogs execute controlled engagement while protecting officers and civilians without causing unnecessary harm. During the presentation to an audience of law enforcement professionals, security contractors, and community members, Cole was asked the question everyone debated. You intervened knowing a billionaire family would retaliate with unlimited resources. Why risk everything for a stranger when you could have just called 911 and walked away? Cole's answer became foundational text for veteran and law enforcement training programs nationwide. I left the SEALs because I watched wealthy contractors avoid accountability for operator deaths they caused through negligence, and the system protected them because money consistently matters more than justice in institutions designed to serve wealth. When I saw a billionaire's son beating a cop and shouting explicitly about how his father's wealth made him untouchable, I had a choice: walk away and validate everything I hated about that corruption, or intervene and prove that some people still believe accountability matters regardless of wealth. Titan and I are trained to protect people who need protection. That doesn't stop being true because the threat comes from someone with money and political connections. Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than doing the easy thing. If that wasn't true, everyone would do what's right. The fact that it's expensive, difficult, and personally dangerous is exactly why it matters. Integrity means nothing if you only have it when it's convenient and cost-free. The presentation included detailed demonstrations of Titan's controlled aggression techniques, showing how military working dogs could engage threats with precision that minimized harm while maximizing control. 18 months after the intervention, Cole expanded his work beyond training to include consultation with law enforcement agencies across the Southeast seeking to improve canine programs using military working dog methodologies. He also began mentoring retiring Navy SEALs through the difficult transition process, helping them find meaningful work that utilized their capabilities without requiring the ethical compromises that drove many from military service. The hardest part of transitioning isn't finding work, Cole told groups of retiring SEALs. Security contractor work pays $700+ per day. Corporate security offers 6-figure contracts. The challenge is finding work that matters, that aligns with your values. I spent 13 months protecting wealthy people whose corruption I despised. That's financially lucrative and spiritually hollow. Find something that uses your capabilities while honoring your principles. Sometimes that means accepting less money for more meaning. But the meaning matters more than you realize until you've spent time doing work that pays well but contradicts everything you believe. 2 years after that August night in Bayfront Park, Cole received recognition from the Congressional Medal of Honor Society for Civilian Valor, an award acknowledging extraordinary courage by civilians who risk their lives to save others. During the ceremony, attended by law enforcement officials and military leaders, Thomas Whitmore was indicted on multiple federal charges, including witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and using interstate commerce to facilitate criminal activity. The federal investigation had been triggered by increased scrutiny following his son's conviction and the public exposure of the family's pattern of using wealth to avoid accountability. Federal prosecutors used evidence from the Damian Whitmore case to build comprehensive cases against multiple Whitmore family operations. The billionaire's son, who attacked a cop, and her canine learned that his father's money and political connections couldn't protect him when a retired SEAL refused to walk past injustice, and when video evidence made witness intimidation irrelevant. Cole Anderson discovered that leaving the military didn't mean abandoning the principles that made him a warrior. It just meant finding new battles where those principles actually mattered more than politics or wealth, where protecting the vulnerable required risking comfortable six-figure security contracts and $250,000 settlements, and where sometimes the most important intervention happens not on a battlefield overseas, but on a dark pathway in Miami, where someone is being beaten and everyone else is calculating whether intervention is worth the cost of angering a billionaire who believes his money makes him untouchable, his son immune from consequences, and ordinary people irrelevant obstacles to be purchased or destroyed, depending on which option is more convenient for maintaining the illusion that wealth places some people fundamentally above the accountability that governs everyone else. Cole chose accountability over comfort. Titan chose his handler. Officer Chen survived. And Miami learned that wealth's greatest vulnerability isn't law enforcement or political opposition. It's ordinary people who refuse to accept that money should buy immunity from justice, who remember that some things matter more than settlements and contracts, and who understand that warriors don't stop being warriors when they retire from military service. They just find different battles where the stakes are equally clear. The principles are equally important, and the choice between right and easy defines whether retirement means anything beyond changing the location where you compromise your integrity for financial security.